براءة من الله ورسوله إلى الذين عاهدتم من المشركين فسيحوا في الأرض 4 أشهر واعلموا أنكم غير معجز الله وأن الله مخزي الكافرين وأذان من الله ورسوله إلى الناس يوم الحج الأكبر أن الله بريء من المشركين ورسوله فإن تبتم فهو خير لكم وإن توليتم فاعلموا أنكم غير معجز الله وبشر الذين كفروا بعذاب أليم إلا الذين عاهدتم من المشركين ثم لم ينقصوكم شيئا ولم يظاهروا عليكم أحدا فأتموا إليهم عهدهم إلى مدتهم إن الله يحب المتقين صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah thumma alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us tawfiq to come to His house. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our coming here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all forms of ibadat that we may be engaged in. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to do more. The verses that I recited are from Surah Taubah. And I did something very unique in the very beginning of the recitation of Quran. Something very unique. What's unique about Surah Taubah? What is unique about Surah Taubah in the whole entire Quran? Quran has 114 chapters, right? What is unique about Surah Taubah? Surah Taubah doesn't have Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim in the beginning of it. But I recited it, right? So we'll inshallah talk about why did I recite Surah Taubah as we move forward inshallah. Surah Taubah has another name. This surah is known with 2 different names. Sometime you will open Quran and you will find Surah Taubah and then some other Quran will mention, anyone knows? Surah Bara'ah, Shabash, right? It has 2 names. It's known as Surah Bara'ah, which means disengagement, disclaimer. Bara'at ka izhar karna, like I have nothing to do with you. Inni bari'um mink. I have nothing to do with you. And Tawbah means repentance, going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? We talked about it a little while ago. It's known as Surah Bara'ah because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala declares in it a disclaimer against the mushrikeen of Makkah, Quraysh Makkah. So all of those contracts that were signed between Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and kuffar, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends a disclaimer in this surah that from this point on there is no more contract. There is no more treaty in between Muslims, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muslims of Medina Munawwara and the people of Quraysh. And inshallah, if time allows, we'll briefly touch that topic as well. And it's also known as Surah Taubah because some of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam failed to obey the order of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to march with him in one of the expedition, one of the ghazawat. That ghazwa was known as Ghazwat Tabuk. And inshallah, once I give a brief description of Surah Taubah and the messages that are in it for us, we want to spend more time on the reason this surah is given Surah Taubah, is given its name Surah Taubah, which is talk about those companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam who failed to obey one of the orders of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then they came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam giving their excuse, but they had no excuse to give other than they just didn't feel like going. They had no excuse, and the only thing they told was the truth. And telling the truth kind of got them into what we will inshallah learn in the next few minutes or so, inshallah. Surah Taubah talks about, in the beginning of the verses, it talks about all of those contracts of treaty that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had made with kuffar of Makkah specifically and with other tribes in general. And to understand the real context of it, let us go back to 6th year after Hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had seen a dream that he was doing tawaf of Kaaba. This is when he was in Madinah Munawwara. He saw a dream that he was doing tawaf. As a result of this dream, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam made intention to perform Umrah. This is 6 years after Hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Before this dream, before this intention of Umrah, Badr has taken place, in which kuffar were really defeated. Uhud was taken place, in which both sides were equal. Right? Khaybar was conquered before that. Khandaq was also taken place before that. Right? Battle of Trench also gave a big blow to the strength of kuffar. And now he's in the 6th year, and it looks like they're not going to stop. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after seeing the dream of doing tawaf of Baytullah, he made intention and he marched towards Makkah Mukarramah with the intention of performing Umrah. He was stopped not too far away from the boundaries of Makkah Mukarramah, the place was known as Hudaybiyah. Right? It was very difficult for kuffar of Makkah, and we have to mention that, mushrikeen of Makkah, because the real problem, the real opposition was coming against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The real opposition was coming from mushrikeen of Makkah, Quraysh. And they've had battles, sometimes Muslims were winning, sometimes they were winning. And now, to accept that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was going to come in Makkah Mukarramah, perform Umrah, Tawaf, Sa'i, perform all the rituals of the Umrah ibadah, and leave untouched, unharmed. Quraysh were concerned about that what are the tribes of Arab going to say? What kind of image will they leave? Will they have? You're fighting, the enemy came to your city and he walked around and left. You didn't do anything. You were so scared. Or you were so weak. Either you were scared or you were so weak. Or worse than that, they are so powerful that now you can't do anything. Of course, this was not acceptable. You know, when nations get in intoxication of power, taqat ka nasha, even the right thing they will not let you do it. Even something that is a right, a person, a group, a nation will not let you do the right thing because of the intoxication of power. I'm all powerful. You can't do it. I'm not going to let you do it. And we see examples. Just because of power, Surah Anfal began with the verse right after the first verse. It was فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَأَصْلِحُوا ذَاتَ بَيْنِكُمْ. The order was fear Allah. There is no fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what about who's going to think about Islah bayna nas? Right? Who's going to think about our right, my rights and your rights? If we don't have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm not concerned about you and you're not concerned about me. Make the long story short, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam agreed to sign the contract, the treaty of peace known as Sulh Hudaybiyah. Sulh means treaty, peace treaty. Hudaybiyah, because it was known as, it was taken place at the place of Hudaybiyah, it was known as Sulh Hudaybiyah. And as a result, if we were to analyze those 10 or 12 conditions of Sulh Hudaybiyah, it looks like they're all against Muslims. And because of that, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu was asking question to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, aren't you the Prophet of Allah? Aren't we on the right path? Why are you agreeing to all this? We don't want to go into the details of the events that took place while Sulh Hudaybiyah was getting written. How many people, kuffar, mushrikeen of Makkah had sent for negotiations, and every time someone was coming to talk to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, negotiations were getting failed. They didn't want to negotiate. Immediately exit Makkah Mukarramah. That was the only concern. Immediately is exit. Leave this place. We don't want to hear anything. Right? But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam agreed to all of those harsh conditions, looking like harsh conditions, and they were really harsh conditions against Muslims. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned those harsh conditions in favor of Islam, in favor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of those conditions was there will be no fight, no battle for the period of 10 years. The greatest opponent, enemy was mushrikeen of Makkah. At least from them, Muslims were at peace that they will not be attacking them. Another clause was, another condition was, that whoever the allies are of group 1, and so let's say there are the mushrikeen of Makkah group and the Madina Munawwara. So if Madina Munawwara is in alliance with, is in peace treaty with non-Muslim tribes around Madina Munawwara, and mushrikeen of Makkah are in alliance, are in agreement, are in peace treaty with other tribes, if the tribes are going to fight, these two main groups will not help the other. So if a friend tribe of Quraysh is going to have a fight, a dispute with a friend tribe of Madina Munawwara of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even though they are non-Muslims, no one can help the other. Quraysh will not provide any help and support to that tribe, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will not provide any support to their tribe, their alliance. It just happened that after this treaty was signed in 6th Hijri, 6th year after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had come to Madina Munawwara. The next year, 1 year passed by, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used that 1 year to send out letters to all the kings around Arabian Peninsula. all of them, almost all of them received letters from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam inviting them towards Islam. And no one could stop anyone. There was no fear of fight from anyone. Alhamdulillah, Muslims were traveling, Muslims were. The only another condition was that if any Muslim man was to ever enter Makkah Mukarramah, he will not be returned. He will be arrested. Okay, this was an exclusive clause only for males, not for females. Right? But if anyone was to come from Makkah Mukarramah to Madinah Munawwara, Muslims cannot arrest them. Right? Anyways, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took the very first year in sending out delegations and sending out letters to different kings, different tribes, and inviting them towards Islam. The very next year, in the 7th year of Hijrah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went and performed Umrah and came back. Within a matter of 6 to 8 months, one of the friend tribes of Quraysh of Makkah had a dispute with another friend tribe of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina Munawwara. This tribe was known as the tribe of Banu Bakr, and on the Muslim side, the alliance tribe was tribe of Banu Khaza'ah. Right? So Banu Bakr at night time attacked Banu Khaza'ah. That's not a big deal. That is not a big deal. If the tribes are fighting, okay, let them fight. The problem was that no one could help their friends. The attack was taking place at night time. Quraysh of Makkah thought that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would never find out. They provided strategic support to their ally. Right? Now we hear all of this, United Nations, no one can attack the other country. If one attacks, if any other country, they cannot attack among themselves. And if any other non-United Nation country were to attack any of these United Nation countries, everyone will have to fight. We see it all. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had already given us Muslims the idea of making these peace treaties, these kind of United Nations, these kind of treaties. Idea was already established by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam learned about this breach of peace treaty and he stayed quiet. But then he had already planned, because the treaty was broken from Quraysh, Makkah, he had already planned and made intention to conquer Makkah Mukarramah. And as a result, Makkah Mukarramah was conquered. And at the time of conquest of Makkah Mukarramah, the humanity has seen examples of forgiveness that are nowhere to be found. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam entering Makkah Mukarramah with his head down on his camel, I believe, or a horse, I don't remember. Okay. And he makes the announcement that whoever enters Kaaba, Baytullah, he's to be given peace. Whoever enters the house of Abu Sufyan, he is to be given peace. Whoever enters the house of Fulan, he is to be given peace. Whoever enters his own house, close the doors and we will not harm you. Meaning, don't come and fight. And when one of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on that day, he called out, Al-Yawma Yawmul Malhama. Today is the day of bloodshedding. Today we are going to make it all even against all of these evil people, all of these barbaric people. They bothered us for 13 years. They kicked out the Prophet of Allah. Today we are all going to make it even. Of course, Sahaba were human beings. But Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam made that announcement, and because of this announcement, there was no bloodshed. There was nothing. Except for some people who had run away, and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had ordered for those people to be killed on sight because of what they had done and what they stayed firm on, opposing Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. They did not take this offer of staying home. They did not take this offer of going and entering into Baytullah. They wanted to actually fight. So if you want to fight, okay, then order of shoot to kill will be passed. The judgment will be passed against you. Makkah came in full control of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and this was 8 Hijri, 8 years after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had migrated Madinah Munawwara to Madinah Munawwara. The very next year, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam sent out a delegation for Hajj. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was made Amir of that Hajj. And at that time, up until that time, everyone was allowed to perform Hajj. Meaning Mushrikeen could also perform Hajj. Of course, they were there. Not everyone had accepted Islam, right? There were other tribes too which had not accepted Islam. So they could also perform Hajj, right? But at that time, in the 9th year, when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had sent a delegation to perform Hajj, these instructions, these orders were also revealed at the same time, and the message was sent. And the message was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam declares bara'ah from any and all contracts that was signed with Mushrikeen. It was not towards all the Mushrikeen actually. There were some Mushrikeen who were still in contract and they would be exempt from this bara'ah. Right? This instruction came really mainly for Quraysh of Makkah. Now if we look at the 2 previous surahs, An'am and A'raf. In Surah An'am, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave references of His favors on mankind and called mankind, humanity, towards oneness of Allah. In Surah A'raf, Allah subhanahu, and we call that tadhkir bi ala illah. In Surah A'raf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave references of those nations which did not believe in Allah and His Rasul, and as a result of disbelief, they were destroyed. Right? In Surah Anfal, when we started talking about it 2 days ago, we said that in A'raf, the warning was given that this can happen, and this happens to the nations who do not believe in their prophets and who do not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Anfal, the very first glimpse of that adhab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came down upon the mushrikeen of Makkah in the form of Badr. In Surah Bara'ah, the completion of that adhab was expressed here, that either fasihu fil ardi arba'ata ashhur, you have 4 months. In these 4 months, you can roam around in city of Makkah as you like. At the expiry of these 4 months, there will be no peace for you. You will be destroyed. Before Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, all the other prophets who came and who were rejected, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will destroy those nations. The nation of Lut alayhi salatu wasalam, the nation of Saleh alayhi salatu wasalam, the nation of Nuh alayhi salatu wasalam. The nations were wiped out. And some people who believed in their prophets, they were left. Because of the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam being rahmatul lil alameen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not take that same course of action by destroying the mushrikeen of Makkah, although they deserved to be destroyed worse than any other nation, because they were opposing Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, Mahbub Khuda. Yeah? They were opposing Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Their fate was supposed to be declared worse than any other nation who rejected their prophets. Yet, because of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam being rahmatul lil alameen, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it happen that He gave them time. فَسِيحُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ أَرْبَعَةَ أَشْهُرٍ. 4 months. You have 4 months. And after these 4 months, there will not be any peace for you. You will be destroyed. Wherever you are found, in these 4 months you have time to either accept Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam as a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you enjoy the same rights as anyone else does. Right? Or there will not be any peace for you. And remember that now city of Makkah is in full control of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So the first few pages of Surah Bara'ah talks about all of those situations that were taking place as a result of this treaty being broken from kuffar of Quraysh. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam acted upon it accordingly. The second part of the surah talks about, or some part, maybe after like 7 to 8 pages, surah talks about munafiqeen and their style and their words about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and how they were always deceiving Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what happened to them. Right? They keep on coming and they keep on rejecting the orders of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and it was their habit that they will come and they will ask forgiveness. They will give any excuse and they will try to get out from the blame. Right? In that incident, in that event, one of the events that took place around that time was the Battle of Tabuk. Right? And there is a long hadith, and inshallah I'll take just about 10 minutes to quickly go over that long hadith. And we will learn how kind Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, that even after such events, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves to forgive. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves to forgive. Not only we learned that, we also learned that Sahaba Kiram radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'een, they were true in their claim of Iman. They were true in their claim of being a Muslim. Babu Sabr. Okay. So this hadith is narrated by Ka'b bin Malik radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. Right? I'm going to be skipping some parts so we can finish in time. He's saying, Wakana min khabri, he's the one who's narrating it. This information about his own self, what exactly happened to him, what was his thought process, also tell us that how true they were in their claim of Iman. Wakana min khabri hina takhallaftu an Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam fi ghazwati Tabuka. And regarding myself, when I could not attend Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, when I could not be part of, when I decided to stay behind, takhallaftu, when I decided to stay behind Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the battle of Tabuk, was that anni lam akun qattu aqwa wala aysara minni hina takhallaftu anhu fi tilka al-ghazwa, that I was never stronger and never more richer than how I was at the time of Battle of Tabuk. So he's saying that I had all the means to travel and take part in Battle of Tabuk. Wallahi ma jama'tu qablaha rahilatayn qattu. Before this time I never had two camels. ولم يكن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يريد غزوة إلا ورى بغيرها حتى كانت الغزوة. Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم would always tell the Muslims that this is the place that we will be going to, except for this. Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم would always do tawriya about which direction he was going to whenever there was a time for ghazwa, except for this ghazwa. This ghazwa, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had informed everybody that this is where we are going. فَغَزَاهَا رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ فِي حَرٍّ شَدِيدٍ. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam fought this battle in extreme heat. وَاسْتَقْبَلَ سَفَرًا بَعِيدًا وَمَفَازًا. And the traveling distance was far, and there were many jungles and deserts in the middle. وَاسْتَقْبَلَ عَدَدًا كَثِيرًا. And he was looking forward to meeting a huge army. This ghazwa never took place. When the enemy heard about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam coming over, they made a U-turn and they left. وَاسْتَقْبَلَ عَدَدًا كَثِيرًا. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was looking forward to meet a huge army from the enemy side. فَجَلَّى لِلْمُسْلِمِينَ أَمْرَهُمْ لِيَتَأَهَّبُوا أُهْبَةَ غَزْوِهِمْ. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam informed all the believing men regarding this matter, regarding this ghazwa, so they could prepare themselves to fight in the war. فأخبرهم بوجههم الذي يريد والمسلمون مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم كثيرون. And there was a great number of people with Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم as well. ولا يجمعهم كتاب حافظ يريد بذلك الديوان. And there was no book, no register that could keep numbers, that could keep an attendance of the Muslims. So they used to keep a register, attendance register used to be there, but this time there were so many Muslims taking part in this battle, that there was no register which could keep the record of who's going and who's not going. قال كعب فقل رجل يريد أن يتغيب إلا ظن أن ذلك سيخفى به ما لم ينزل فيه وحي من الله. There were very few people who decided to stay hidden. Okay, except for those who thought that this will be staying secret, nobody would ever find out. The only people who stayed were the people who thought to themselves that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam could never find out that I never visited, that I never attended this ghazwa, because there are so many people, right? وغزا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم تلك الغزوة حين طابت الثمار والظلال فأنا إليها أسعر. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, this ghazwa had come in. I'm not going to translate, I'm just going to paraphrase the Arabic ibara. When this ghazwa, this expedition, this war came, this battle came, the crops were ready to be cut. They had worked in their gardens, in their farms for the whole year, and now it was time to cut the dates and sell it into the market so they could make money. And now he's saying, فَأَنَا إِلَيْهَا أَسْعَرُ. And I was inclining towards that. I was like, why do we have to go at this time when we have worked throughout the year, and now it's time for us to take benefit out of our farms, and now if we go there, one, we don't even know if we'll come back. Two, even if we were to come back, at least 30, 40, 50, 60 days are not going anywhere. By the time we come back, these crops are not cut, all the crops will be destroyed. فَأَنَا إِلَيْهَا أَسْعَرُ. I was inclining towards, staying with my farm and taking care of that. فَتَجَهَّزَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ وَالْمُسْلِمُونَ مَعَهُ. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam continued to prepare for the war, and the Muslims as well did the same. وَطَفِقْتُ أَغْدُو لِكَيْ أَتَجَهَّزُ مَعَهُ. And I also, every morning, I would also start to prepare myself to take part in the battle. فَأَرْجِعْ وَلَمْ أَقْضِ شَيْئًا. Who could be telling this much truth about their own, feelings? He said, I would go in the morning to the market, see what I need, the food, the sword and the armor, but I will come back and I will not do anything. وَأَقُولُ فِي نَفْسِي أَنَا قَادِرٌ عَلَى ذَلِكَ إِذَا أَرَدْتُ. And I keep on saying to myself, I'm qadir, I have option to buy tomorrow. Let's not do it today. Like you and I are thinking, we can pack our bags tomorrow for Umrah. أنا قادر على ذلك إذا أردت. I can do it tomorrow if I want to. فلم يزل يتمادى بي حتى استمر بالناس الجد. This thought kept on coming to my head, and until all the people were prepared with their preparation, except for myself. فأصبح رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم غاديا والمسلمون معه ولم أقض من جهازي شيئا. And one morning I heard that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam departed Medina Munawwara, and I had not prepared anything for myself. And he mentioned the reason why. Because he was inclined towards his farm, right? ثم غدوت فرجعت ولم أقض شيئا. So I went in the morning to the market, and I did not prepare anything for myself. فلم يزل يتمادى بي حتى أسرع وتفارط الغزو فهممت أن أرتحل فأدركهم. He says that this idea, keep on coming to my head that, I should go tomorrow, but I would go to the market, do not buy anything, and come back. Until I heard that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has reached the enemy, and then I said to myself, فَهَمَمْتُ أَنْ أَرْتَحِلَ فَأُدْرِكَهُم. That I haste, I rush and meet him. At least I can meet him. Then he says, فَيَا لَيْتَنِي فَعَلْتُ. Kash ke main ye kar leta. I wish I had done that at least. فَيَا لَيْتَنِي فَعَلْتُ. ثُمَّ لَمْ يُقَدَّرْ ذَلِكَ لِي. He said, well, taqdeer is also written. We believe in taqdeer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was muqaddar for me that I could not take part in that battle. فَتَفِقْتُ إِذَا خَرَجْتُ فِي النَّاسِ بَعْدَ خُرُوجِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صلى الله عليه وسلم يَحْزُنُنِي أَنِّي لَا أَرَى لِي أُسْوَةً. Then what I started to do, I started to get out in the city of Medina and see after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam left, and it kept on bothering me that I did not see anyone like me. Meaning, if the only people who were found in Medina Munawwara were either people who were handicapped, or women, or the people who were declared munafiq. There was not a person like me. And this, يَحْزُنُنِي أَنِّي لَا أَرَى لِي أُسْوَةً. This kept on bothering me, that there is nobody like me in here. إِلَّا رَجُلًا مَخْمُوزًا عَلَيْهِ فِي النِّفَاقِ. Except for the people who were known to be munafiq, أَوْ رَجُلًا مِمَّنْ عَذَرَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى مِنَ الضُّعَفَاءِ. Or the people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given exemption because of their handicapped status. وَلَمْ يَذْكُرُنِي رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ حَتَّى بَلَغَ تَبُوكَ. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam never mentioned my name until he actually reached Tabuk. فقال وهو جالس في القوم بتبوك ما فعل كعب بن مالك. When he reached Tabuk, he said, and he was sitting in the people, and he said, what happened to Ka'b bin Malik? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam knew that he did not come, even though the number was great. But Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam knew that Ka'b bin Malik is missing. فقال رجل من بني سلمى يا رسول الله حبسه برداه والنظر في عطفيه. Somebody said, Ya Rasulullah, the wealth around him kept him busy looking around what was going on. Somebody made a statement. فقال له معاذ بن جبل رضي الله تعالى عنه بئس ما قلت. Basically the man was saying, the man had mentioned that, Ya Rasulullah, this was like a stamp, a negative feedback regarding Ka'b ibn Malik, right? Which was going to have some kind of impression in the heart of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about Ka'b bin Malik. So Mu'adh bin Jabal radiyallahu ta'ala anhu stood up and he protected the honor of Ka'b bin Malik. He said, hey, listen, you did something bad. Bi'sa ma qult. This is not something right to say. And then he said, Wallahi ya Rasulullah ma alimna alayhi illa khairan. Ya Rasulullah, all we know about Ka'b bin Malik is khair. He's a good person. فسكت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فبينه هو على ذلك رأى رجلا مبيضا. And then story goes on, and then something happens. Now I want to jump to the place when Ka'b bin Malik hears about Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم returning. قال كعب فلما بلغني أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قد توجه قافلا من تبوك حضرني بثي. When I heard about the news that Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم is returning from Tabuk, حضرني بثي. Grief had come over me. What am I going to say to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? فطفقت وتذكر الكذب. I started thinking about lies. Can we tell about ourselves to the people? That I started thinking about lies, how do I get myself out? فَطَفِقْتُ وَتَذَكَّرُ الْكَذِبَ. I started thinking about lies. وَأَقُولُ بِمَا أَخْرُجُ مِنْ سَخَطِهِ غَدًا. How can I get out of the displeasure of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tomorrow? Started coming up with a plan. وَأَسْتَعِينُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ بِكُلِّ ذِي رَأْيٍ مِنْ أَهْلِي. And I started seeking help from everyone who was smart man, from my family members. فلما قيل أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قد أضل قادما زاح عني الباطل حتى عرفت أني لم أنجو منه بشيء أبدا. When I heard that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has arrived, all the negative thoughts about getting away from his anger, his displeasure by lying had escaped my mind, and I knew that nothing can protect me from what's going to come from now on, from this point on. حتى لم أني عرفت أني لم أنجو منه بشيء أبدا فجمعت صدقه. I collected all my sidq, all my truth, all my skills of telling the truth. It's very hard, it's very difficult. وأصبح رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قادما. Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم arrived early in the morning. وكان إذا قدم من سفر بدأ بالمسجد فركع في ركعتين ثم جلس للناس. And Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم, whenever he would return from a long distance traveling, he would stop in the masjid, pray 2 rakat nafil, and then he will start to meet people. فلما فعل ذلك جاءه المخلفون يعتذرون إليه ويحلفون له. When he did this, all the people who stayed behind started coming, and they started giving excuses, and they started swearing, taking oaths too, that this is what had happened. And this is also talked about in Surah Bara'ah. وَكَانُوا بِضْعًا وَثَمَانِينَ رَجُلًا فَقَبِلَ مِنْهُمْ عَلَانِيَتَهُمْ. They were over 80 people. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, whatever excuse they gave, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam accepted it. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam took them in the bay'ah again. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sought istighfar for them and handed over their batin, their secrets, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hatta ji'tu, until I came. فَلَمَّا سَلَّمْتُ تَبَسَّمَ تَبَسُّمَ الْمُغْضَبِ. When I said salam, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam smiled like an angry person smiling. ثُمَّ قَالَ تَعَالَ. He said, come. فجئت أمشي حتى جلست بين يديه فقال لي ما خلفك. I came until I came sat in front of him, and he asked me, what kept you behind? ألم تكن قد ابتعت ظهرك. Didn't you buy the animal? Didn't you buy the traveling animal? قال قلت يا رسول الله إني والله لو جلست عند غيرك من أهل الدنيا لرأيت أني سأخرج من سخطه بعذر لقد أعطيت جدلا. Now he tells something about how much belief they had on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam risala. He said, Ya Rasulullah, wallahi, I swear by Allah, if I were sitting in front of anyone but you, I could show you that how I get myself out by giving an excuse. لَقَدْ أُعْطِيتُ جَدَلًا. I know how to talk. I have been given an art of talking. I can get myself out of the situation. If I were to sit in front of anyone but you, using my skills of communication, I would have get myself out. وَلَكِنَّنِي وَاللَّهِ لَقَدْ عَلِمْتُ لَإِنْ حَدَّثْتُكَ الْيَوْمَ حَدِيثَ كَذِبَ تَرْضَى بِهِ عَنِّي. But I know, I swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that I know that if I were to tell you, if I were to lie to you today, you will accept my lies. لَيُشِكَنَّ اللَّهُ يُسْخِطَكَ عَلَيَّ. But it is very likely that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will inform you about me. And it did happen actually. وَإِنْ حَدَّثْتُكَ حَدِيثَ صِدْقٍ تَجِدُ عَلَيَّ فِيهِ إِنِّي لَأَرْجُو فِيهِ عُقْبَ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. And if I were to tell you the truth, whatever happened with me, you will be angry at me. تَجِدُ عَلَيَّ فِيهِ. You will be angry at me. But I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have a good ending for that. I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have a good result of me telling the truth. You will be angry, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take out good ending for that. Wallahi ma kana li min udhrin. I swear by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have no excuse. How difficult would it be to say that? Wallahi ma kana li min udhrin. I swear by Allah, I had no uzr. Meaning, do whatever you have to do. Taking part in ghazwa, like attending for salah at that time. This is first, you gotta go. This is order of Allah and His Rasul, there is no excuse. Everybody is going, you have to go. There is no excuse. Wallahi ma kuntu qattu aqwa wa la aysara minni hina takhallaftu ank. I have another 2.5 sites to go, and inshallah we'll keep it for tomorrow, because so many lessons are coming in these were just the historical events that were taking place at that time, but the real order, the result that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the result that He was going to face from this point on, after giving no excuse, this is what we need to learn, and this is what we need to take lesson from. And inshallah, I want to leave this time for dua, and if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us tawfiq, inshallah, we will continue it from this point tomorrow, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen. One last thing. Recitation of Bismillah. I said that we will talk about it, inshallah. So, for everyone to learn, there is no Bismillah in the beginning of Surah Taubah. It used to happen that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would receive some revelation, and every time a revelation would come, and then the next revelation would come, and if it was a new surah, Bismillah would also be revealed. And that's why Bismillah is written there, although it's not part of, according to Imam Abu Hanifa, it is, Bismillah is not part of the surah, but it was revealed, right? So because of the revelation of Bismillah, Tasmiyah coming down in the beginning of every surah, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is written down. When Surah Bara'ah was revealed, when Hazrat Usman radiallahu ta'ala anhu had collected the Quran and put all of those different scripts of Quran which were found with different Sahaba, and he compiled all of them in one book, he did not find Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim written in front of, and he also did not find any testimonies from the Sahaba that Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim was written in the beginning of Surah Bara'ah, right? And because of this surah and the messages that are given in Surah Anfal and Surah Bara'ah, they're almost similar. There's so much similarity in the messages of Surah Anfal and Surah Bara'ah. Although one is talking about in the early times of Hijrah, Battle of Badr, what exactly happened with the kuffar of Quraysh, right? And the messages, and at the end of the part of Hijrah, which was at Fatah Makkah, right, in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had conquered Makkah Mukarramah, and after some time these ayahs were revealed. Uthman radiallahu ta'ala anhu put these two surahs together without having Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim in the beginning. There is a difference of opinion whether these is one surah or two different surah. So he kept it this way, left some place for Bismillah without writing Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So this is the historical reason for having no Bismillah in the beginning, right? What do we do when we are reading Surah Taubah? So if we are going to continue from Surah Anfal, so let's say we start وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُمْ, the 10th juz, right? We start 10th juz, which has 3 sides or 4 sides of Surah Anfal, and then we finish Surah Anfal and we recite Surah Taubah. There is no Bismillah recitation. We carry on just the way it continues on. Without reading anything, we take a pause and we start reciting Bismillah, Bara'atu min Allahi wa Rasuli lalladhina ahadtum min al-mushrikeen. Right? So in continuing with the previous surah, there is no Bismillah recitation. But if we are starting tilawah from Surah Bara'ah, like I did in the beginning of this khatira today, then there is A'udhu Billah and Bismillah. Likewise, if we were to recite this surah from anywhere, beginning the recitation of surah from anywhere, let's say, 4th side of this surah, then we would also be reciting A'udhu Billah and Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So the only time we will not recite Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is when we are continuing it from the previous surah and continuing the recitation with this surah. together. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.